What's going on, guys? So it's day 2 here at Blazing Stars RV Resort in San Antonio, Texas. It is morning time. I believe it is 8:45 in the morning. Beautiful, beautiful day. A little overcast, but it's definitely nice and cool outside. Wanted to give you guys kind of a report now that we've been in this unit overnight, at least staying the night in it, and letting you know our impressions of how it comes from the factory in terms of the bed, as well as just utilizing the space inside, the air conditioning, things like that. So if you're looking into an RV, there's all sorts of little things that you don't really think about before you buy it. Oftentimes you'll see the number of air conditioning systems, or you'll see the type of bed it has, and you may think, well, that will probably do just fine, right? You're not going to have any issues with it. I think it's important for you to know what our impressions are in terms of the interior of this. First, let's start with the bed. One of the really nice things about this Vanleigh Beacon is that it comes with a bamboo memory foam mattress. It's a high quality mattress. It's definitely not what you would consider to be the basic mattresses a lot of RVs come with. The mattress is definitely a bit on the firm side, which I don't think is a bad thing. So if you like a firm mattress, that's what you're going to get. We didn't feel we needed to put a topper on top of it. So typically in previous RVs, we've kind of had to pad the top of the mattress down because it felt like we were laying on a board. This specific memory foam mattress did a good job. It actually felt very comfortable. Again, it definitely leans more on the firm side, but it did not feel like a low quality mattress that you typically get in an RV. So that's a big plus, and we appreciated that. Now, this specific RV has 3 AC units on top, and they're all 15K BTU units, which means this thing has a tremendous amount of cooling capability. Now, it does have a power management system up front, and I can run all 3 ACs simultaneously, which is really cool. If you don't want to run all 3, you can always run the fan on one of them and run the other 2, or you can just run one. They're all fully ducted throughout the entire coach, and they're all whisper quiet. They call them true whisper quiet AC units because of how they duct it, and at the same time how they manage airflow through the coach. Now, what is really interesting is the fact that during the day, running all 3 AC units does a fantastic job of keeping this coach cool when it's hot outside. Yesterday, temperatures were upwards of 100 degrees, and the inside felt very cool. I'd probably say it was in the low 70s, and that was just running 2 of them. When we threw the third one on, it dropped it down even a little bit more than that. But what was interesting is how it felt at night. Night was a little bit different, and it was harder to manage the airflow throughout the coach, mainly because we have our family with us laying in the back on the sofas that fold out, and we're up front in the master bedroom area. We had the door closed, and I think with the bedroom door closed, you really lose some efficiency in terms of airflow throughout the entire coach, probably more from the return air side. And in the middle of the night, I probably woke up 3 or 4 times just going out to readjust the AC units to figure out what was the best combination. At first, we had the front one in the bedroom on and the back one in the living room on, and then we had the middle one with just the fan running to try to help circulate some of the air. But then we changed it around a little bit because the thermostats actually indicated that the front was 69 degrees, the back one was 69 degrees, but the center sensor, the center AC was 73 degrees. So it definitely wasn't regulating airflow throughout the coach effectively. So what I ended up doing was getting up again a couple more times to just kind of fiddle with it until I got it to the perfect setting, and we finally did. So the perfect setting was just to run the front AC with the fan on high, the back AC with the fan on high, and turn the center one off completely at night. And that actually did a really good job cooling the entire RV down. So I think the problem with running the center one was it was pulling warmer air that hadn't cooled down from the center in and kind of distributing it through the ducting system, and essentially warming up the air that was in the system. I'm not 100% sure. But what's really interesting, though, is if you have the bedroom door open and you're running all 3 ACs throughout the day, it does a really good job cooling down the entire RV. So we really liked that. Something else is how effective the day-night roller shades are. So you have 2 types of shades. You have a day shade, which is like a mesh, and then you have a night shade, which is completely blacked out, because your mesh is going to be relatively transparent at night if you have lights on inside of your RV, even with tinted windows. They're really designed to block the sun out so it's not so intense during the day. Now, the night shades are essentially pitch black shades. They block all light. And man, I can tell you, they did a fantastic job this morning. We had all of the shades closed in the bedroom and the rest of the coach. And when we woke up this morning, this is what it looked like. It wasn't quite this bright, but it was about this bright. Inside of the RV was like pitch black. So it was really nice, especially if you want to sleep in a little bit longer and you're trying to keep the inside dark. Something else. So I know in the past, I kind of criticized auto leveling systems as being one of those things that it's just the extra component to break. But then months and months later, I came back and I said, next RV that we get is definitely going to have auto leveling. I am a huge fan of auto leveling. The hydraulic system is very powerful and it's very fast, and I can definitely appreciate having auto leveling now that we've had it on this beacon. It's just a wonderful, wonderful system. And there is a difference between the two types of auto leveling that are typical on RVs. There are other brands, but the two types are made by LCI. One's called the Level Up, which is what this system has, and this is the hydraulic system. And then the other one is called Ground Control, which is the electronic version of the system. The hydraulic system is much stronger in terms of what its overall capacity is, but the electronic system is arguably easier to service if you have an issue, but much slower, and maxes out at about 16,000 pounds. So if you're over that, you would really need the Level Up system versus the ground control system. But a lot of RVs have the ground control system and they seem to work well. The only thing you have to be careful of with ground control is if it loses power completely for too long, you have to reset the system and recalibrate it. So that's just something to keep in mind. It's a pretty simple process, but a lot of people get freaked out by it when it happens because they don't know what to do. So it's definitely something that you're going to want to familiarize yourself with if you have the electronic version of the ground control landing gear. Not something you have to worry about with the hydraulic version, but definitely something you have to think about and probably understand the process of with the electronic version. This also runs Schwintek slides in the back, 2 of them, and then it has 1 slide up front for the bedroom, and it has hydraulic slides here in the center. You can definitely see the speed advantage you get with the hydraulic slides versus your standard electric rack and pinion or the Schwintek slides. Come out much faster, and in my opinion, they kind of come out a little too fast. I wouldn't say that it's actually dangerously fast, but you see the things coming out, you kind of wonder, man, is that a little bit too fast for a slide? Just given the fact I'm used to electronic rack and pinion slides that just come out much slower. Now, I want to talk about a few little perks that this RV has that I can really appreciate. One of them is it has ball valves to turn on and off water sources at all your connections. I can really appreciate that. That's definitely something that I like to see. It's definitely something, if you're having a water issue, you are going to want to see, to be able to turn off your water at the actual connection point, as opposed to, let's say you have a faucet that breaks and it's spewing water. You have to shut water off to the entire coach. With this, you simply look under or behind the faucet and you can turn it off. Really like that. I love the marine grade panels that they use for the flooring in this unit. The floor feels incredibly solid. So in some coaches, they do some lamination, they do layering different types of materials. I like the thicker use of materials here. It definitely adds weight to this coach, but it feels very solid. When you go up and down the stairs, when you're on the higher bath deck, when you're on the back elevated deck, it doesn't feel creaky. It doesn't feel like you're walking on a floor that's slightly bowing or slightly bending under your weight. It feels very solid, like you're on the second floor of a home, which is really nice. A lot of people say, well, does it have Azdel? And the fact is, this is actually considered to be a superior technique to Azdel because it's a solid one-piece sheet of fiberglass that's actually hung on the side, and this is what they've told me. But I can tell you from the inside, again, it was very hot outside yesterday, and very little of that heat actually made it inside of the RV, which is really nice. And we are in a spot that has some shade. Right, there is definitely some shade, but when the sun is directly above you, there's not a lot of it. And at no point did we feel like we were sweating inside, like it was hot. And there were a few points when we'd turn off all of the air conditioning units so we could do a few different things, like run some hair dryers and a vacuum cleaner, things like that. And even with the ACs off, it took a long time before the temperature increased noticeably. And I'd honestly say, I don't think at any point we felt we had to. We just did to keep the interior maintained at a comfortable temperature. So the sidewall insulation, the roof insulation, the underbelly insulation, all of it plays a part in that, and it does a very good job. And this is South Texas heat. So this is definitely an area where the insulation and the build of an RV is going to be put to the test in terms of heat. Now, in terms of cold, you'd really have to run this up north to test that out, or to an area where it gets very cold. Now, what I like about it, though, is that there's been a lot of thought put into where things are heated to prevent you from dealing with problems, because this is a full-time rated and a full-time warranted RV. Because of that, they have to think about the things that could happen if you're living in this full time in a campground that might freeze all the time. So there's heat ducts, there's heat vents in different areas, there's heating pads on the things that need to be heated. The bottom is sealed and it's got insulation all the way throughout it. So I don't necessarily think this needs the 3-inch thick sidewalls. This has your traditional, right at 2 inches thick sidewall, and it's a good construction quality that they use, and it definitely was comfortable. Like I said, South Texas heat is no joke, and it can definitely get uncomfortable if you don't have an RV that can deal with it. Dual pane windows, absolutely love them. I know they're terribly expensive if you get them added. Generally something you may not even know you have, and you've paid for if you do have them on a higher end coach, but you can absolutely tell the difference of how much heat comes through that window versus your standard single pane window. I absolutely love how much heat is rejected from these dual pane windows. These did a great job, even though from an R value perspective, it's not that much, but from a practicality perspective and actually feeling the difference, it's pretty extreme. And you guys know your windows on typical RVs turn into little heat pads. They're incredibly hot when the sun's hitting them. In this unit, even when it was in storage, you really couldn't tell. They would be slightly warm, which is awesome. Real quick, one quick review I'd like to add is the Truma AquaGo system. So we had an opportunity to try that out, and it works pretty well. I was pretty impressed. The water doesn't get quite as hot as it might normally get with a gas or an electric hot water heater, but it definitely heats up enough to take a nice warm shower. This is a pretty cool system. To turn the system on, if you've never used one before, you have to open this panel and turn it from off to on. On's either the top or the bottom, and off is in the center. You have to make sure your gas is on, because this is a gas-powered unit right here. So just again, you have to make sure the gas is on. I forgot to turn my propane on whenever I started this. I was wondering why the water wasn't getting hot. And then from the inside, there's a little knob that is in the off position, and you simply turn it into an eco mode or the standard mode if you want to utilize the instant hot water. And it works really well. Again, it doesn't get crazy hot, but it definitely gets hot enough to take a nice warm shower. So that about wraps it up for this video. I'm going to be shooting some more video of the washer and dryer. We're going to have a chance to use that. This has the Splendid model inside of it, and it's the stackable unit, so we'll be utilizing that and a few other things. But overall, it's been a very pleasant experience. We absolutely like this beacon. Few little things, a few little issues and bumps along the way, but nothing that's overly stressed us out or caused us any major issues, and nothing, in our opinion, that's been worth trying to get an RV technician out here to work on. Again, a lot of this stuff you can do yourself. If you want to call a technician and really press Vanleigh's service to see how they respond, they offer it. They offer the ability to try to get someone out that day to fix your problem, which is commendable. Anyways, guys, I sure hope you enjoyed this video. If you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up. We'll talk to you again very soon.